Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture, the show where we discuss science, technology, and culture in its myriad of forms. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Warner, and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague and fellow co-host, Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone. It's great to be back again for another episode of STC.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to unfortunately start on a somber note, as news came in overnight that legendary entertainment icon Leonard Nimoy passed away. And, obviously he was 83. So he had a good innings in that sense, but there's, if you're thinking of an icon that really covers science, technology, and culture, he pretty much was it. Thanks largely. I mean, there were a couple of different variations on it, but it's largely thanks to his portrayal of Spock in Star Trek that sort of really got not only the geeks but also the science community really sort of excited and all that sort of thing. And I retweeted this morning a photo that NASA put up from when the Star Trek cast and crew were there for the that space shuttle sort of launch, and it's a fantastic photo, but it just goes to show how that sort of, a TV show in this instance had such a major impact on the culture, and he was an integral part of that.
Oh, that's right. I mean, the Star Trek series was amazing for its time. And also on the back of that, the In Search of series, where they went, that was a groundbreaking factual series where they went and, chasing after the biggest mysteries on the planet, from Easter Island to the Bermuda Triangle, to missing civilizations, and who could have been a better host than Leonard Nimoy? Yeah,
and it was good in the latter part of his career too. I mean, I think he always did this anyway, but especially in the latter part of his career, he really got involved in a lot of the science and geek type shows and series and whatnot, like some appearances, like the Big Bang Theory connection and that sort of thing. So it's good that, he had that impact, but he'll be missed from that point of view. So, a bit of a somber note, that one. But all right, we'll get into our topic for today, which is we thought we'd share the top 5 mobile apps that we use currently. So we've got it, it's in 2015, but maybe it'll change next year. Who knows? But we thought
next week, Ben.
Yeah, that's right. But we thought we'd share some of these more to give you a perspective of how we use them and how it sort of highlights how a mobile device has become such a powerful sort of tool in your arsenal, not only for your personal needs but also professional needs as well. Now, the disclaimer, of course, is that we're talking about iOS apps in this instance, and I'm fairly certain that a couple of these would have equivalents on other platforms, but that's basically where we're coming from, because basically they're the devices that we use. So I'm just going to kick off with the first one, and that's the camera app on iOS. And the reason why I picked this is that it's being used right now as we speak. It's really quite amazing, and obviously other smartphones have it, but in particular the iPhone app has a lot of great features in it. The fact that it's successfully replaced every HD or even in the past mini DV camera I've ever had, and producing a much better picture that I ever had for video production is quite astounding. And just recently, thanks to iOS 8, with the time-lapse feature, I've been experimenting with a bit of time-lapse photography, and I'll probably overlay some of that as we're speaking now, because I got a good sunset the other night. And it's just great. And even, it's also got that multi-purpose function of using your phone as a information gathering device. So if you see something out there and you want to remember it for something, rather than taking a note, you just take a shot of it, and you can remember it for later. So
well, you're making me think that I should add another app to my list, but that's a good one. That's a very, very good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what's your first one there, Steve?
Well, the first one I've got down is Sleep Cycle. because I basically use it every night, and I've used it now I've recorded almost 1,000 nights of sleep, and we've spoken about it before on Fist Chat and on Science Tech Culture, and it's just so good. It allows me probably to ensure that I'm doing the right things to get a good night's sleep. It allows me to see if my sleep is broken, and I can, you can log what you did during the day, and you can see patterns, and it's one of those real-time analyses of my personal sleep patterns, and that's a very powerful tool. My sleep has certainly improved since I've understood more about the way I sleep. I think it's only about $1.99. I know you've used it for a while, Ben. You can use it for a few weeks, or you can use it, for 1,000 nights. It doesn't matter. It's got some great features, uploading your stuff securely to the cloud, or you can share it if you're really into sharing all those things. And it's got some great stats that allow you, to look at 1,000 nights of sleep. I can see the differences in my sleeping between summertime and wintertime. I can see the differences in my sleeping, after a hard training session, or after having a big meal and probably a little bit too much alcohol. You can see what happens to your sleep pattern. So great app, and it's in line with a lot of the fitness and lifestyle apps that just really don't let you get away with things.
The fact that it's all built into your phone is an amazing thing, and highlights just how powerful our phones have become, that you can keep track of all of this.
Well, that's right. And, I think the thing we've spoken about before is that on the latest phones, like iPhone 6, there are actually 2 processors in that phone, and one of them can be dedicated non-stop to those lifestyle loggings of whatever activities you're up to.
Yep. And sort of leading in from that is my second choice, which is the Fitbit app, which similar to what you were just describing with the Sleep Cycle app, except what it's doing, or at least what I predominantly use it for, is motion tracking. So I'll know how many steps I do in a given day. I can also do GPS-based maps tracking, which means I can, when I switch it on, it'll track exactly where I've gone, how far I've gone, and then plot it out on a map, which is quite interesting. You can do manual tracking of things like diet, weight, and it also has a sleep tracking function as well to see how that goes. I only tried that once, and I just wasn't comfortable wearing the wristband overnight. So, but it did work. It did yield similar results to your Sleep Cycle app, actually. But just wearing a band wasn't comfortable. So
that's actually why I prefer Sleep Cycle.
Yeah.
For the sleeping app, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing. And plus, Fitbit also sends you periodic updates on how you're going. It gives you a weekly report. And, before I started using it, I didn't realize I was walking as much as what I did. And especially when it converts it into kilometers, and you sort of go, well, yeah, that's a fair amount.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a great motivational tool.
Exactly.
To keep you active and thinking like that.
And just looking at the list, you've got your own activity tracker there by the look of it.
Yeah, I use Argus, which is an interesting app. It works with a number of devices. So it will work with a Nike smartwatch. It'll work with a Pebble Watch. Works with the New Balance app. It works across a variety of apps. It does pretty much what you're talking about with the Fitbit. It measures the amount of physical activity you do in a day, and that, the rate you burn calories. You can log what you eat, how much you drink, what foods, how far you walk. It doesn't matter. And it's great because you can use it with a variety, as I say, of devices. I use it with a LifeTrack it's not a smartwatch. It's a very clever watch. I don't think you'd call it smart because it's not tethered. But it logs all the data, and Argus is just the way that that data is transferred and stored within the Argus app. Great app, just like the Fitbit. It can motivate you to do the right things. If you set goals, if you want to change things that you're doing, it can help you because you can see as soon as you stray from your plan.
Absolutely. All right, now just changing tack a bit to security. My next choice here is 1Password, and I think this app's fairly well known. If you're living under a rock or whatever, you may not know about it. But essentially, it's a password generator and storing app. So I've gotten into this a lot more in the last year or so because we have so many more accounts that we track these days. We're a lot more in the cloud. We've got a lot more data in there, and this password just lets you keep track of everything because it's safer to have a unique password for every site or portal that you log into to prevent the possibility that if someone happens to hijack one of your accounts, they can't get into one of your other accounts. And 1Password does a fantastic job in this respect. You've got an interesting one for your number 3.
Well, it's interesting, we didn't really confer on these lists, but we're sort of following the same track. I've got a utility. So the utilities folders, there are other variants on it. I got folders and I used it. I've never found a need to get something else, but it just allows you to store files, especially photos, videos, or documents outside of the Apple system. So it uses your phone storage very simply. Just like in the old days, the file is stored in folders, and if you want to open it up, then you open it up from there.
Well, that's important.
Using whatever app.
Well, that's important in iOS because it doesn't have that file system. And if
right.
you're used to using a computer, it can probably drive some people nuts.
Yeah, and it actually works really well. It's also got a great transfer system, an IP transfer system that allows you to wirelessly, download those files to your computer. It's probably a bit dated now because I've been using this for probably about 3 years. With the cloud systems now, you'd say, do I really need it? Probably not, but it's secure. You can password secure them, keep these files on your phone, in the phone's memory, rather than in the app. So, for what it's worth, it's good.
Absolutely. All right, and an app that I use every day, several times a day actually, is Weather AU. Now, this is only for Australian weather because it sources it from the Bureau of Meteorology here in Australia.
It's a good app, this one.
It absolutely is. It gives you so much detail with weather across the country in Australia. I've found with weather apps that they can be very hit and miss in terms of accuracy, but this is the only one, and this is including international apps, that actually gets the weather right for where you are. It's just unfortunate that they aren't international because, that would be even better. But this app is awesome, and it's just great to, you can see incoming weather and all that sort of thing with the radars that they've got going. And it's a great app.
Yeah, look, I agree. It is a good app. I've used it, and we only had room for 5 each. But it is a very good app.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got one here called Plane Finder.
Yeah, because I'm a plane spotter. I guess in my spare time. It is actually an awesome app. I think from memory it costs about $6. You can get a light version, but it's well worth the $6. You can see planes all over Australia, where they are. If you're going to pick someone up from the airport, if it's left, where it is, how long it is. You don't have to go to any airline app or anything like that. And what's more, you see a plane flying overhead, you can see where it's going, it's registration. I mean, without being flippant, it's the sort of thing that if you were looking at a plane way above you, wondering whether or not that you should, fire a surface-to-air missile at it, it would have told you exactly what the plane was.
It's a bit scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very good. It's an awesome app. It's a lot of fun because you can sit there with friends at a barbecue, watch the planes go over, and tell them where it's going. And obviously living in Adelaide, we see a lot of planes go over from Melbourne or Sydney, going to Perth or heading to Asia, and you can tell where they're stopping. And, it's great. You know what plane it is. That gives you all the data on the plane, when it was first registered, how many flights. Yeah, it's very nerdy, but it is great fun. And you can use it anywhere in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now my final one from the top 5, and none of these are actually in any particular order, by the way. We just, had to rank them in some way, but in order to get through them. And I've actually got 2 that I want to finish off with. The first one's Pro HDR-X. Now, I've been using this a lot on my Instagram account. Basically, what it does is with the iPhone 6 camera, it takes 3 burst mode shots at once, but they're exposed differently. And then using software, it combines them to get an optimal HDR balance. And it does it in a far superior way to what the stock standard camera app does in the iOS app. Not putting that down since I had that on the list before. Now, I've actually been using this for quite some time. On the iPhone 5, I actually had the previous version, which was Pro HDR. Now, the iPhone 5 didn't have the burst mode at the time. I still don't think it has either. But what you would have to do is you'd have to sit and hold it for 30 seconds while it balanced the frame out. But this one now with the burst mode, it actually just lets you take a shot just like you would any other normal shot. You just tap, click, bang, the photos, a couple of seconds of processing and it's all done. And you can do some color adjustments if you want, exposure adjustments, all of that. It's all in the app and it's really powerful. And just on another note, I had to mention iMovie as well because thanks to, again, the iPhone 6 is really where it's really taken off quite well because of the processing power and the size of the screen that I'm now comfortable that I can go anywhere, shoot anything, edit it, upload it, and not have a need necessarily to use a MacBook or a laptop or any sort of computer to produce a high-quality video.
So do you actually use iMovie on your phone?
Yes. Yep, on the actual phone itself. So obviously it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Final Cut Pro, which you wouldn't expect it to. But if you want to knock together a decent video, which I did last year when I was overseas, and I did a half dozen or so, no problem at all. And that has really been mind-blowing for me because even though the functionality's been there with previous phones, I just felt that the combination of the hardware and the software in this case finally sort of came to its own. I don't think it was as useful on, say, an iPhone 5 where the screen's smaller. But in this case, yeah, they're really awesome apps. So yeah, rounding out my 5 with photography.
Okay, in that case, then this didn't make my 5, but I'm going to squeeze it in there just because the GoPro app.
Absolutely.
If you use a GoPro, there's no better way to control that GoPro than by using your phone, whether it's Android or whether it's iOS. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that and get on to my actual 5th one. But while we're on visual technology, that is an awesome app too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got Simple Rockets as your last one.
Another cheap app. I think it was $1.95. I love this. I love this so much. It is a game. It's a rocketry game, but it's a physics engine. So you can basically design your own rocket using real physical equations to go to the moon or anywhere in our solar system, or even just go into low Earth orbit, or even just see how far you can fly your rocket with limited fuel.
Fantastic.
You can build any configurations you like. It's all real. And if you note down what you've done, the weight of each segment, the size of each segment, you can actually send the plans to NASA and they could build that rocket for you. It's awesome.
I suppose if a billionaire's doing it, they'd be able to get in there quick smart, wouldn't they?
I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk has a copy of it.
Yeah.
But it's a great app. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. If you've got get on your phone. It takes a bit of practice, but once you get into it, hey, you can go anywhere in the solar system.
The sky's the limit, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to finish off with 2 apps we wanted to call out, mainly because of sort of an interesting sort of thought that's attached to them in the way that they're used. Now, a game came up recently in the iOS App Store called Duet. Now it's just a game, and normally they charge for it, but so it was up for free this week, and I downloaded it. And I was looking at it, and it's incredibly simple. All it basically is 2 balls that are attached on a ring, and you have to move you can move the ring left and right so the balls move around. And there are blocks that fall from the top of the screen down, and you basically just have to keep turning the ring so the balls don't hit the falling blocks. And that's it. And,
what a great idea.
And it kind of reminded me of, how simple games like this have now come full circle. When you think of the early days of computing, Pong, Space Invaders, and all that sort of thing, it's sort of like, obviously it's got better music and some slightly more high def graphics and things like that, but they're not really that much different. They're not really that much different if you think about what you're actually doing. And the fact that these games are becoming popular is quite interesting, isn't it?
Well, I think, you nailed it there. Gameplay will always triumph over anything else. If it's, Angry Birds is a good example. Great gameplay.
Well,
the graphics are nice.
And that's the thing. I think it encourages people who normally probably wouldn't play games to play games, because you don't have to devote hours to it. You can play it for 5 minutes, or you can play it for 2 hours. It doesn't really matter. It just lets you do that.
Yeah. And interestingly, just because I'll throw this in, Angry Birds is based on a physics engine.
Yep.
Just like Simple Rockets. So, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about science just playing these games.
Well, Angry Birds Space is my favorite. But anyway. And just finally, the Emergency app, Emergency Plus app. Do you want to take us through that one and how that created an interesting story?
Yeah, sure. We should probably put the link up for this on our site. But I was just perusing the Australian, and there was an article in there about the Emergency Plus app and how useful it is, particularly in large countries where you might not get mobile phone coverage. Effectively, if beyond your standard metro area and you're perhaps out of normal mobile range, the app will actually allow you to place an emergency call and also track your location by using satellite technology. So you're not reliant on the cell network. You're actually using GPS to send the message to let people know where you are to come and get you if you're lost, hurt, or something else. So well worth checking out.
Yeah, and that's an incredibly powerful tool to have in a device that you carry around with you every day.
Especially in a place like Australia where it's really easy to move outside of your normal cell networks, So, very important. I'd recommend anyone in a regional area in Australia certainly to have that app, and anyone who likes to go, as the story suggests, goes bushwalking or trail running or whatever you might do. Certainly, if you're out by yourself or only with one companion, it can be very potentially a lifesaver.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we could keep going, Steve, all day with this sort of thing, but we have to draw a line under it. So we'll
sorry for all the apps that got left off our list.
That's right. That'll be next time. All right. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
No worries.
Okay, and don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. We've got all of our links to our content there, so feel free to check that out. We've got more than just these videos. We've got blogs, photography, and all sorts of things, so hopefully you'll enjoy it when you visit. You can interact with us directly on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook, so I'd love to hear from you there. And if you think anyone's interested in our discussions that we have on a regular basis, feel free to send them to our website. We greatly appreciate that. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.